Hi there, in this video we are going to go over how to use inverse operations to solve two-step equations. So, your I can statement will be I can use inverse operations to solve two-step equations. Alright, so the goal is to isolate the variable. Or you want to think of it like try to get x alone on one side of the equation. Okay, the idea is if you get the x alone on one side of the equation, then the other side of the equation will be the solution. All right, so there's two steps to solve. That's why we call them two-step equations. The first step will be to identify the constant and then do the inverse or opposite of the constant on both sides of the equation. All right, so in other words, if the constant is -2, you're going to do the opposite, which is +2 or +2. If the constant is -5, you're going to do +5 on both sides. And hopefully you remember, a constant is the part of an expression that doesn't have a variable attached to it. So it's just a number without a variable. All right, and then step 2 is you are going to do the inverse operation of what is being done to x. All right, so take a look at the operation that's being done to x. If x is being multiplied by 2, you're going to do the opposite, which is divide by 2. All right, you're also going to look to make sure that you don't have a fraction. If you notice that the coefficient is a fraction or x is being multiplied by a fraction, then you will need to multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal. All right, so let's start with example 1 here. We have 2x plus 4 is equal to 10. All right, I like to start off drawing a little squiggly line, and that shows me the left side and the right side of my equation. All right, I want to focus first on the left side of the equation because that has my variable in it. All right, so I'm going to go up to my steps here. Step 1 is to identify the constant and then do the inverse or the opposite of the constant on both sides. All right, so identify the constant and then do the inverse or the opposite of it. So my constant in this first question here is +4 or +4. The inverse of +4 or +4 is to subtract 4. So we're going to subtract 4 on both sides. If you look at the left side, you want to think, okay, 4 minus 4 cancels out. That gets you 0. And now you're left with 2x on the left side is equal to 10 minus 4, which is 6. All right, so that was step 1. Step 2, now we are going to do the inverse operation of what's being done to x. So x here is being multiplied by 2, right? At this step, we have 2x. So in other words, we know the value of 2x, right? The value of 2x is 6. If you think about it, you could probably solve this in your head without doing the inverse operations, right? If the value of 2x is 6, what's the value of 1x? That would make the value of 1x be 3. In order to solve for that, you would do the opposite of multiplying. So if x is being multiplied by 2, you are dividing both sides by 2. And then you are going to get 1x on the left side, which is what we want, is equal to 6 divided by 2, which is 3. All right. Another, a little trick that you can do now will be to check your answer. You can check your answer by rewriting the initial equation. So let me rewrite the equation on the side here. Instead of x, you're going to plug in 3. So 2 times 3 plus 4 is equal to 10. And now you're going to check to see, is my answer right? So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 4 does in fact get you 10. This checks out. All right, so you are going to be expected to show your two inverse operations. The inverse operation that happened right here, and the inverse operation that happened, shouldn't say right there, that happened right here. Right, you are going to be expected to show minus 4 on both sides, divided by 2 on both sides, and then your answer. All right, let's look at question 2. We have 5 equals 2 plus 3x. So the first thing we're going to do is draw the squiggly line, or I like to refer to it as the river. Draw the river that separates the equation. We are going to focus on the side where the x is. Okay, so the right side, 2 plus 3x. We're going to look at step 1, which step 1 says to identify the constant, and then we're going to do the inverse or the opposite. Okay, so identify the constant, do the inverse or the opposite. So our constant here is 2. We're going to do the inverse or the opposite, right, which is minus 2 on both sides. 2 minus 2, well, this gets you 0. Now on the right side, you're left with 3x, and on the left side, you're left with 3. So our equation now is 3 equals 3x. Literally here it says 3 is the value of 3 x's. Your job is to find the value of 1x. Again, you could probably do this step in your head, but I want you to write it out because we're going to get into much, much more difficult equations. So we are going to do, if x is being multiplied by 3, we're going to do the opposite operation, which is divide by 3. Okay, so again, here's step 2. Do the inverse operation of what is being done to x. So again, in number 2, x is being multiplied by 3, so we are going to divide by 3. Okay, so we're going to divide here and here by 3. Okay, on the right side now you get 1x, or just x, and then on the left side you get 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And then you could even check your equation. You can check your answer by plugging it into the equation. So 5 equals 2 plus 3x. We're going to get 5 equals 2 plus 3 times 1. When you plug it in, you get 3 plus 2, in fact, does equal 5. So that checks out. All right, number 3, we are going to solve first. We're going to start solving first using the river. Then we are going to figure out what is our constant. So look at the side where the x is. Which is the constant? The constant is minus 5 or negative 5. We're going to do the opposite of that, which is plus 5 or positive 5 on both sides. Those they cancel, you're now left with 4x on the left is equal to negative 21 plus 5. Hopefully you remember how to add integers with different signs. You really subtract them, and you get 16. There are more negatives than positives, so you get negative 16. At this step, the value of 4x is equal to negative 16. Your job is to figure out what is the value of 1x. So you're going to divide each side by 4, and then you get x is equal to negative 4. All right, now number 4 looks a little bit different, but that's okay. We still follow the same steps as the other questions. So we're going to start first by drawing the river. You are going to focus on the left side because that's where the x is. You're going to find the constant. In this case, the constant is minus 5 or negative 5. And then we are going to do the opposite of it, which is plus 5 on both sides. Minus 5 plus 5, these cancel out. You're left with x over 3 is equal to 4 plus 5, which is 9. Now at this step, you might want to refer to step 2, which is you're going to do the inverse operation of what is being done to x. Okay, so look at what's being done to x. X is being divided by 3. The opposite or the inverse operation of this would be to multiply by 3. when you multiply by 3, right, you have on this side, it's like saying 3x divided by 3. You'll end up with 1x. And then you have 9 times 3 here, which gets you 27. All right, let's look at the next example. I'm going to draw the squiggly line down the equal sign. I'm going to start with the constant of -2. Then I'm going to do the opposite of -2 on both sides, which would be +2. Then I have 2/3 w equals 12. Now, I'm going to go back to the top here and re-look at this in the box. If the coefficient is a fraction, multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal. You have to memorize this. That is what the inverse operation is of multiplying a number by the fraction. The inverse operation is to multiply by its reciprocal. All right, so here we have 2/3 w is equal to 12. We're going to multiply each side by the reciprocal of 3/2. Because what that'll do is over here, when you do 3/2 times 2/3, right, you really get, I'm going to try to write this small here, you really get 6/6w, which 6/6w, right, 3 times 2 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6, 6/6 will get you 1w, which is what you want. You want 1w on the left side. And we get w is equal to, okay, let's work on the right side now. We're going to put the 1 under the 12 so that we can multiply it across. So 12 times 3 gets you 36/2. 1 times 2 is 2. 36 divided by 2 gets you 18. So our answer here is 18. Okay, so your two inverse operations were to add 2 to both sides and then multiply both sides by the reciprocal. When you multiply both sides by the reciprocal, on the left side specifically, you will end up with 1w. That's why you multiply by the reciprocal, because you want 1w or 1x or 1 whatever the variable is. All right, number 6. We're going to start off the same way. So you are going to draw the river. Then you are going to find the constant, which is +1. And you are going to do the opposite, which is -1 on both sides. Okay, so on the left side, +1, -1, those cancel out. And you are left with 2/3 x is equal to -10. Now, you have a fraction next to the variable again. Your job is to do the opposite, which is multiply by the reciprocal. When you multiply by the reciprocal, over here on the left side, you'll notice you'll get 3 times 2 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6, so you have 6/6x here, which 6/6 is 1x. That's what you want 1x. So, here we have x is equal to -10 times 3/2. In order to multiply these, you're going to put a 1 under here, and now you're going to multiply across. -10 times 3 is -30. 1 times 2 is 2. And then you end up with -15 as your answer. So x is equal to -15. All right. Number 7, we have Maya decided to have a party. It costs $60 for the full platter of food for all to share, plus $2.50 for each soda per person. How many people were at the party in total if she spent $100? All right, so first off, you want to identify what it is that you are looking for. You are looking for how many people were at the party. So we are going to say let x equal the number of people at the party. Okay, because that's what we're finding. Alright, so she decided to have a party and it cost her $60 for the platter of food. So we're going to start off with that $60 plus $2.50 for each soda per person. So it's $2.50 per person for the sodas. So we're going to add, it literally says plus here, so plus $2.50 per soda per person. So it's $2.50 times the number of people, right? If there's 3 people there, then you would do $2.50 times 3. If there's 5 people there, you do $2.50 times 5. So we have 60 plus $2.50 times X is equal to the $100 that was spent. And now we're going to solve this two-step equation. So we're going to do minus 60 first because that is our constant. Okay, if you bring down the river, look at the left side where the X is, you have 60 as your constant, so now you're going to minus 60 on both sides. These they cancel, you're left with 250x is equal to 100 minus 60, which is 40. Now at this point, you're going to do the next step, step 2, which is look at what's being done to x and then do the opposite. So we have 2.50x. We are going to divide both sides now by 2.50. Now you have x is equal to 40 divided by 250, which gets you 16. So there are 16 people at this party. All right, that is all. I hope you learned how to solve two-step equations. Thank you for watching.